Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Cohen. Senator Kennedy.
Professor Sood, as I understand it, 80% of the PBM market is controlled by three companies, three PBMs, that are vertically integrated. Is that right?
That is correct.
Folks, you better buckle up, because we're diving into one of the most honest, no-nonsense moments you'll see come out of the U.S. Senate in a long time. And guess who gave it to us? Senator John Kennedy, a man who doesn't just talk like a real American, he acts like one. He cut through the D.C. doublespeak like a hot knife through butter. And for once, someone actually said what the American people have been screaming about for years. We're talking about PBM's pharmacy benefit managers, the middlemen, who are jacking up your drug prices while pretending to save you money. And Kennedy? Well, he dropped the polite act and went straight for the jugular. Let's break it all down. And I'm not going to lie, I've got some things to say as a red-blooded American who's tired of watching big government and big business fleece working families.
Does your research show that the prices that consumers pay are higher than they would be if those companies were not vertically integrated?
So my research on Medicare Part D...
Give me an answer.
Partially.
What do you mean partially? They're either higher or they're lower.
So
There's no such thing as a partial price.
what I find is that Medicare Part D premiums are higher as a result of vertical integration.
Okay. Well, then why don't we, I'm all for transparency, Mr. Chairman, I want to say that. But why don't we skip the foreplay and go right to the sex and outlaw vertical integration for Part D? Would you accept an amendment to your bill like that?
I don't want to answer that question right now because I want to study that.
Would you support that, Mr. Scott? Let me just guess what your answer is.
No, sir, and I can explain why.
No, you speak Sanskrit. I mean, I'm sorry. You know, you're good at it, and I know your job is to protect the PBMs. And I might tell us I don't think PBMs are the only ones at fault, but you don't have unclean hands. Professor Sood, you say PBMs ought to be fiduciaries. To whom?
To both the plan and their members.
Well, what if the plan and the members' interests diverge? Who are they fiduciaries to?
Ultimately, in principle, they should be fiduciaries to the members.
Okay.
So, for example, ERISA makes...
I get it.
Okay.
I get it. Mr. Chairman, again, why don't we skip the foreplay and go right to the sex? Why don't we just amend your bill to require that PBMs have a fiduciary obligation to plan members?
Well, I think that's been suggested, and I think there's part of that in our legislation, but probably not fully enough to satisfy you.
Well,
So let me look at what you want to add to it.
okay. I mean, I'm not criticizing your bill. I don't want my office to end up in Bethesda. So I'm not criticizing your bill. I like transparency. But we're just nibbling around the edges here. And with respect, Mr. Scott, your definition of a fiduciary is wrong. A fiduciary isn't somebody that controls the decision. You know that, and I know that. A fiduciary is somebody who has a legal obligation to give his client the best advice and to do what's best for his client. It doesn't replace agent with principal or vice versa. You know that, and I know that. Well, you need to talk to your lawyers. I may be wrong, but I doubt it. Let me go back to Professor Sood. Tell me two things you would do tomorrow to fix PBMs and result in lower prices for consumers.
So I think the two things I would do is...
Very specific.
Yes. I would implement price transparency so that everyone knows what they're paying. And
Okay, price transparency just tells us who's screwing whom.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the fiduciary responsibility says, if you're getting screwed, I can take you to court. So I would do those two things. And those are, I think, better than banning particular practices, because otherwise it's whack-a-mole. You ban spread pricing and something else will show up
Okay.
a year from now.
I got 29 seconds. Do you have any other suggestions? I appreciate your
So
straight talk.
the other thing we can do is what I recommended is pass-through of rebates to patients. So suppose a drug...
Say that again?
So pass-through of rebates to patients.
Uh-huh.
So for example, the list price of a drug is $50,000, but the rebate on the drug is $40,000. So when a patient is paying cost sharing, suppose 10%, they should be paying on the post-rebate price. So which is the $50,000 less the $40,000 rebate. Right now, what's happening is patients are paying cost sharing on the $50,000. So this would immediately lower patient out-of-pocket costs. So as Dr. Kocher said, for the cancer patients,
So you're saying the number after us, the PBMs are jacking up, are encouraging manufacturers to jack up the list price so they can jack up their rebates.
and that...
Is that right?
Yes.
That's
and,
illegal.
And the jacked
That's
up...
illegal.
Yes.
I'm
I don't
done.
know about that, but it...
I do.
Okay.
It's illegal as hell.
Yeah.
Before I call on Senator Ronald, want to remind my members we got a vote and they're enforcing the 30-minute rule. So I'm going.
So here's the deal. 80% of the PBM market is controlled by just 3 megacorporations, and they're vertically integrated, which means they don't just manage your pharmacy benefits. They're also tied up with insurance companies and pharmacies. They're playing all sides of the game, and you, the taxpayer, the consumer, the cancer patient, you're the one left holding the bag. Senator Kennedy asked the experts flat out, are consumers paying more because of this setup? And while one of the witnesses tried to tap dance around it, Kennedy cut him off and said what every frustrated American is thinking. That's what we need more of, not weak, wishy-washy nonsense. We need answers. We need results. Now, listen, I know some folks got triggered by Kennedy's blunt metaphor, but let me tell you something, that line wasn't about being crass. It was about cutting through the bureaucratic BS and getting to the heart of the issue. Because that's exactly what these Washington insiders are doing, dancing around real reform, playing word games, pretending they care about transparency, while Americans are choosing between medicine and food. Professor Sudd said PBMs should act as fiduciaries, meaning they're legally bound to act in the best interest of plan members. You know, the people paying for the plans. And Kennedy asked the million-dollar question, what happens when the plan's interests and the members' interests don't match? The answer? You already know. The big corporations win. The patient loses. Let's get real here. PBMs have been hiding rebates, inflating list prices, and manipulating the system to rake in billions. They encourage drug makers to jack up the prices, just so they can negotiate fake rebates that never reach the patient. It's legalized corruption, folks. And Kennedy said it best. That's illegal. That's illegal as hell. And he's damn right. Now here's where I'll give Professor Sutt some credit. He laid out 3 clear steps that even the bureaucrats should be able to understand. 1, price transparency, so we know who's screwing who. 2, real fiduciary responsibility, so you can sue the bastards when they lie to you. 3, rebate pass-throughs to patients, because if you're paying for the drug, you deserve the discount. Sounds like common sense, right? But to the swamp creatures, that's just too radical. Why? Because it cuts into their kickbacks, their golden parachutes, and their backroom deals. This is exactly why America is broken, and why we need more senators like Kennedy who will speak plainly, fight fiercely, and demand accountability. The Biden administration isn't doing a damn thing about this. The unelected bureaucrats aren't lifting a finger. Big Pharma, big insurance, and big government are all in bed together, and guess who's paying for the honeymoon? It's time for patriots to stand up and say, and no more. No more smoke and mirrors. No more corporate socialism. No more healthcare that bankrupts families and enriches monopolies. We need to ban vertical integration, hold PBMs legally accountable, and expose every dollar that's being stolen from the American people under the guise of managing care. If you're as fired up as I am, smash that like button, subscribe, and share this video with every American who's tired of being played. Because this isn't left or right, this is right or wrong. And right now we are being wronged. Stand with Kennedy. Stand with truth. Stand for America. And as always, God bless you. And God bless the United States of America.